Welcome to another video from ExplainingComputers.com. This time I'm going to talk about HDMI recorders, by which I mean devices like this. This is a Blackmagic Design Video Assist 4K, and devices like this, which is an Atomos Nijna Blade, which is being used to record the opening to this video. And what devices like this do, they take an HDMI input and they record it internally. This is a self-contained piece of hardware to an SSD or an SD card. And they do so using a very high data rate format, something like ProRes or DNx HD. And the reason I'm making this video is that many people have asked me over the years, Chris, how do you record a computer on your channel? How are you recording a Raspberry Pi or a Tinkerboard or a Rock64? How are you recording the BIOS of a computer? What software are you using to do that? And of course the answer is I'm not using software, I'm using a self-contained HDMI recorder. So I thought I'd do a video covering this type of device. I'll say from the start, these are expensive bits of professional equipment. I'm not suggesting for a start everyone should use this type of stuff. There are cheaper ways to record from a computer. But for the past about 3 or 4 years, as I've scaled up this channel, moved to weekly production, I've been relying intensely on this type of hardware to practically make things happen, to hold my pipeline together. Everything you've seen on ExplainingComputers pretty much for the past over 3 years now has come off an HDMI recorder. So it seemed a good idea to make a sort of behind the scenes video about all that and about this type of technology. So I thought I'd start out showing you this, which is the Atomos Nijna Blade HDMI recorder, which comes in this rather strong case, and it even has on the back of it some transport controls so we know what kind of device it is. But if we flick it over like that, this could take an elephant sitting on it, probably would still be okay. But if we open the thing up, quite a powerful locks here. If we can get in, there we are. And inside, I've got the issue now of showing you black things against black, which is not really good for filming, is it? But never mind. You can see the Nijna Blade itself is here. We saw it earlier on the stand, and it comes with everything you could possibly want. If there's a possible accessory, it comes in this box. So we've got a battery. It takes standard Sony NP batteries. It's got a power adapter. It's got an adapter to plugging into this, which is a external battery charger, all the different adapters for world things. Why you want to carry all these things with you all the time, I don't know, but they all fit in the box. And the other critical thing here, can't get that back in now, there we are. Dearie me, look, you see, as soon as you move these things around, they cause you trouble. It also comes with these. These are caddies, which you put inside either SSDs or 2.5-inch hard drives. So basically, this is an empty plastic thing. You put your drive in there and you obviously screw it together, and then these fit inside your unit, something like that, obviously with a drive inside, and that's how the thing does its recording. So let's take this unit and look at it in a bit more detail. And here we are. This is the Nijna Blade. As you can see, it's got a screen on the front, 5-inch screen, 1280 by 720 touchscreen. It's got on this edge the critical connectors, which is basically, it's got a HDMI connector there. You can see HDMI in and out. You have in from your camera or your computer and out to a monitor if you wish. It's got audio in and out, basically headphone out, line in, and it's got a socket for a LANC connector, a camera control connector if you want. Other than that, not a lot of connectors. There's a power switch on this side, a tally LED, and top and bottom it's got jacks to connect it to a tripod or other stands or cameras or whatever you want to connect it to. And to make it operational, you need to fit it with an SSD or a 2.5-inch drive, but most people use SSDs these days. Here's a caddy with a drive inside and a piece of tape. I used to get them in and out nice and easily. That'll just slot in like that. If you're thinking, is it a good idea to be using SSDs you're constantly slotting in and out? Won't that wear out the SATA connectors? It will. That is the fundamental flaw of this system, if there is one. We'll also fit it with a battery. On the back, you've got space for 2 batteries, which can work in relay, or you can use a power adapter, but I'll plug in a battery like that. And I'll now hopefully try and turn it on, and you may see it under mover lights. Hopefully you'll see it a little bit. I'll just press and hold and then release, and it'll take a second to come on. As it's coming on, I'll tell you this records, as I said earlier, in ProRes or DNx HD video. It supports a range of different rates, so it'll do, for example, 1920, 1080 and 24p, 25p, 30p, 50i, 60i. It'll do 1280, 720 and 50 or 60p, and it'll do SD in 480i or 576i. What a lot of resolutions. And because it's recording in ProRes or DNx HD, the data rate is very high. the data rate is up to 220 megabits a second. Now, I'm normally recording a format called ProRes 422, which is 150 megabits a second. So to give you an idea, that's about 4 hours of recording on a 256 gigabyte SSD. But the advantage of recording in ProRes is you get great quality. It's also an intra-frame recording system, which means every frame is recorded separately. So it's not recording the changes between frames, every frame is recorded. That makes it much easier to edit, much easier to do good green screen and stuff off, things like that. So anyway, it's come to life. Let's press play. The interface is not that sophisticated compared to many cameras, but there is an interface. You can see the shots have been recorded here. I can't remember what's on this device. Oh, that was recorded in the Zenbook, wasn't it? And you can see how things are done, because you can see here it wasn't big enough for that. That was all painted in Photoshop by the time it got into a final video. And presumably, if I go on down here, all these shots, I basically work on this, everything is recorded on this, and then actually I will review shots on this device and then take the ones I want across to the computer. And I was recording against blue in this particular video, probably because there was some green in the object I was holding up, which obviously wouldn't have been good. So that's how you play things back. I should have said earlier, the way you get things back into the computer is you put the SSD into a caddy like this, and then that caddy plugs into the computer. Just to show you how it records, I've got somewhere here, I think, an HDMI lead lying around. The way you do. Here we are, that's an HDMI lead. Let's plug that into here. That's from a camera also looking at this shot, and a different camera. Look, it's recording itself. And so we can see that there, and there's all sorts of features you can pull up. You can see it's got audio meters and things which are in here, and there's various features we can use to help out with shots. Don't know how, again, you'll see them on screen. That's actually peaking, if I can make it come on. Will that come on? Can you see it? Probably not. Can't quite see it on camera. That helps you out with focus if you could see that, which is to say you probably couldn't. But if I want to record, I'd just press record, and it would start recording. You can hopefully see it whizzing away there, recording along, and that's how this would basically work. So this is the Ninja Blade. This is really one of the workhorses of explaining computers. Virtually every shot that comes off a camera of some type will be recorded into a Ninja Blade. Right, my second HDMI recorder, at least my second one, functional and in use. I've got this and the Ninja Blade in use, various devices less functional in the cupboard. It's very handy for me to have two devices in use, because I often find I'm recording onto a camera and from a computer simultaneously, and cutting between the two, so two devices makes my life much easier. Anyway, this device is a Blackmagic Design Video Assist 4K. It doesn't come in a fancy case, comes in a cardboard box that looks like this. And Blackmagic Design, you may remember, the people who published DaVinci Resolve. And when you get this, you get a copy of DaVinci Resolve Studio, the paid version of DaVinci Resolve, on an SD card in the box. I wasn't expecting that. I remember getting that about just under a year ago. That was rather nice. And this is a very nice piece of kit. It's very heavy, very bulky. This is a 7-inch touchscreen. It's a 1920 by 1200, so a nice high-resolution screen. So it's just solid. This is mainly made out of metal, very heavy. It's got its battery plates on the back, so it's round, so you can put batteries on there, although I always use it in a studio context to record computers mainly. I've never actually bought batteries for this. It's got a fan in the back, bit of a disadvantage that when you're recording with your microphones close by, but it's not too loud. It's got mounting points top and bottom, so you can mount it wherever you like and all sorts of different configurations. And if we look on this side, you see this doesn't record to an SD or SSD or a 2.5-inch drive. It records to standard SD cards. Of course, these got to be very fast SD cards depending on what you're recording. This actually records again in ProRes or DNx HD, so the data rates again go up to 220 megabits a second. I've normally got 64 gigabyte cards in here, which give me about 35 minutes of video recording in ProRes. And the great thing about this is on the other side, you can see the connectivity. This connectivity is fantastic. We've got HDMI in and out, but we've also got SDI in and out. This is the professional connector for connecting to video devices and out to monitors again. And we've got mini XLR connectors. These are connectors for balanced audio. So when you're working with professional microphones, you're normally got a connector that looks a bit like one of these. This is a full-size XLR connector. That wouldn't fit in. Where are we? That wouldn't fit in here, clearly. They couldn't fit it in the case. I wish they had. So you have to use an adapter. We're always having to use adapters these days, aren't we? But that would plug in like that, and that would then plug into, if I get it right, into one of these. So the practical benefit of this is it means I can plug into this device, if you can still see it, I can plug in a fully balanced microphone into one of the audio channels, plug in a computer via HDMI with the computer's audio on the other HDMI channel. I can record myself on one audio channel and the computer's audio and the computer all in one go without having all sorts of other equipment in the way. That is so useful. Let me see if I can show you working. I think I've got the power lead over here. Again, I don't know how well it'll record on camera, but let's see. Let's turn it on. This is a press and hold again, and then it hopefully will do something. Oh, it has. Oh, you can see that, I think. So that's come on. And again, I think I've got a camera lead somewhere lying around. If I can find an HDMI connector and plug it in. This will plug in. I can never remember which connector is which. Where we are, that's input down there. Don't normally use it in this particular configuration. Oh, there we are. You can see me again. Audio just coming through on one of the channels there because the other one is set to go for this microphone input, which of course isn't connected to anything at the moment, or it might have been, but it isn't. And you've got all sorts of functionality on this. You can zoom in and see things much closer. Great thing about it is you've got a much wider range of formats you can record in. As the name suggests, this is a 4K device. So this doesn't just record in 720p and 1080p, and it will do 50 and 60p at 1080p. It also records in 2160p, what we tend to call 4K these days, although it isn't really, it's a 2160p. And this will do 24, 25 or 30p at that pseudo 4K resolution, which is very handy. Again, you can play things back. The playback on this is terrible in terms of the interface. It's quite bizarre, but it does work. As you can see, this was clearly some computery thing I was recording a while ago. So that's my second HDMI recorder, the Blackmagic Design Video Assist 4K. So, I've now shown you the equipment I use to record from a computer. Well, I sort of have, because often when you plug a computer into a recording device by HDMI, you won't be able to record it, because the computer either doesn't like talking to your device, or it's got some sort of copy protection system to stop it happening. And therefore, other devices are sometimes used. And therefore, this is something I thought I'd show you. This is a very, very important part of my kit. This is, in theory, an HDMI splitter. This is a powered device. You plug in power over here, and then you plug in HDMI from your source there, HDMI input, and it's got two HDMI outputs. So this is sold as a device which will split your HDMI signal. And I sometimes use that with the recording setups. I sometimes put computer output into here, that goes to the monitor, that goes to recorder, that will work. But I frequently also use it just to strip out that protection signal. So particularly on many single board computers, and particularly when you're using Windows 10, I have to go through this to actually record properly from a computer. A few other things I find very useful. I have a lot of HDMI leads in use. I've frequently got 8, 10 HDMI leads in use at once, 5 meter leads, 10 meter leads, shorter leads. I use a lot of these leads. This is only I think it's 30 centimeters, tiny little lead, about a foot long lead. I use a lot of patch leads, often plugged into my devices to save wear on the connectors. And to make that work, I use these. These are fantastic. These are HDMI couplers. So you can basically plug that in there like that. Take another HDMI lead. If I got one over here, I think I have over there, that would plug in that way, and you've coupled HDMI leads together. I use those all the time. I think these are about $1, but these are absolutely fantastic things to use. The final thing I'd point out, which are critical to me, have become more so over the years, are these. These are Velcro cable ties, and you think, why are these so important? But when you're working with lots and lots of wires in combination, be very careful you don't damage your sockets. So I've got these on everything. Whenever I set up a camera or a computer or a recorder with HDMI leads around, I always make sure I cable tie things, even if it's only going to be there for 10 minutes, because the risk of you snagging a cable, destroying something is very high. So you'll see these on all of my cameras and recorders and stands all of the time. So there we are. The final thing I'll show you with HDMI recorders in terms of equipment is a little bit of Velcro. When I was about 7 years old, I got my first camera. My dad made the camera for me. It looked a bit like this. As you can see, it was made out of wood. It was made out of a 4x2 bit of wood with about 6 inches long, and it had a 1-inch dial in the front as the lens. And as you can probably guess, this camera didn't actually record anything. It was simply there so I could actually carry it around and work out shots. I remember mounting it on my bike and doing grips and things, working out all the things this camera was shooting. Why am I telling you this in a video about HDMI recorders? Well, I'm telling you because it really highlights, I think, how personally I've always been a filmmaker first and a computing person second. Filmmaking is what's in my blood, in my heart, if you like, and I happen to have got into computers in a pretty big way. I spent 25 years teaching computing in university, I published computing books, all that kind of stuff, but ultimately I'm here on YouTube because I want to make films, and I happen to make them about computers, rather than being like I think many YouTubers who happen to be interested in a subject, say computing, and then start making films about it. And that, I think, is a very critical thing to understand why I use devices like this thing which I'm recording on right now, why these are important for this channel. People often say to me, why do I not invest more in computers? Why don't I have the latest kit, all that sort of stuff? The reason, very simply, I do invest heavily in hardware, but I invest in stuff like this. I invest in the stuff that gets stuff on the screen. And I hope this video has explained a bit about that to you. You've seen a little bit behind the scenes, you've learned a bit about HDMI recorders, you've hopefully learned a little bit more about explaining computers. Anyway, that's it for this time. I hope you've enjoyed this slightly different video. We'll be back to more normal stuff next time. If you haven't subscribed, of course, please subscribe, and I hope to talk to you again very soon.